Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobby Capucci, and this is Daily Drop number 84. We have had a bunch of news today. We covered the whole entire Ghislaine Maxwell situation on the Evolution episode and on the morning update. And I'll tell you what, it's starting to form. The investigation is starting to form. Like I said earlier, they're in the preliminary stages of their investigation, but it is all starting to come together. My source, like I said earlier, is not somebody who is working directly with this case or anything like that, but they are somebody that is in the know. And from what they have told me, this is going to be an aggressive investigation, and there are going to be a lot of people swooped up. Now, whatever that means, I don't know. But hopefully it means that they're going to get slapped with RICO charges. Because if they get slapped with those bad boys, well, we all know that the sky is the limit as far as prosecuting people. When you get slapped with those RICO charges, there's not much you can do. You can fight it out in court, of course, but the federal government will bankrupt you. Unless you're Jeffrey Epstein and you're being protected by some sort of intelligence agency, of course. But at the end of the day, the federal government will wear you down. They wear down everybody. They've done it to mafiosos. They've done it to drug kingpins. They've done it to businessmen who are corrupt. They will wear you down. They wore down Mike Flynn. The federal government, there's a reason people plea. And people don't go to trial against the federal government. They have unlimited resources, folks. Unlimited resources and zero compassion. The federal government does not care. They will slap the hell out of you unless you're Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why this case is so frustrating. We see how the FBI and the federal government conduct themselves in just about every other situation. But now you have a prolific child molester who's molested children all across the whole entire country and raped women as well as and trafficked them. And there's none of that zeal, none of that let's go get them type of pizzazz we see in situations like when Roger Stone's going to be swooped up or when Dinesh D'Souza is going to be arrested. We don't see any of that zeal. But hopefully, skeptical, of course, but hopefully the FBI is getting their shit together, and this is going to be the turn. Maybe the rank and file has said enough, because we've talked about it on here before. It's not the rank and file that I have a problem with. It's the agents that are in charge, the Jim Comeys of the world, the Brennans of the world, the Clappers of the world, etc., etc. These people they're not reliable narrators. Okay? They're liars. They're criminals, and they have no business running these agencies. So it's not the rank and file that I have an issue with. Those are just normal people like us that are going to do their job the best that they can. They put together their cases and they send them up the ladder. If the people up on high decide they don't want those cases, well, those cases will go nowhere. And that's how a bureaucracy works, folks. That is exactly how a bureaucracy works, and that is why people like Jeffrey Epstein can exploit said institutions. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. All right, we have one article tonight, and it seems like a daily occurrence at this point, folks. Another woman has come forward and said that Jeffrey Epstein sexually abused her. This article is from the New York Post. The author of the article is Priscilla DeGregory, and it was published today. The article. Another woman claims that she was sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein at his Manhattan townhouse beginning when she was just 14, according to a new lawsuit. He likes him. That's about the age Jeffrey Epstein likes him. All right? That's his preferred age, in that range. We see it with the girls from Palm Beach, and now it's coming out that the same scam that was being run on the girls in Palm Beach was being run on girls in New York. And this Jane Doe, this Anastasia Doe, is talking about that exact scam, that exact trafficking operation that Epstein was running, where he would bring girls in, have them massage him, and then he would procure them and have them and groom them, and then have them procure him other young girls. So it's just all bad. And if he was doing it in New York and he was doing it in Florida, don't you think he was doing it in New Mexico? And we've heard nothing about that yet. And that's another thing I'm going to find out when I'm in New Mexico, at least attempt to find out. Were there young girls like that being abused from Santa Fe as well, or the surrounding area? Has there been any of those claims? I have yet to see them, and if they're out there and anybody has seen them, please send them my way. I'd love to get in touch with some of the people that, might have been involved in that. But one would think, logically, if he was doing it in Manhattan, and he was doing it in the Virgin Islands, and he was doing it in Florida, well, you would think that he'd be doing it in New Mexico as well, especially considering how he had so many palms greased in New Mexico. The woman who filed the Manhattan federal lawsuit anonymously under the name Anastasia Doe claims from 2003 through 2006 she was sexually abused and eventually raped by the financier in his East 71st Street mansion. Anastasia, now 30, says in 2003 she was recruited by her underage friend who told her she could get $300 to give a massage to a rich man in Manhattan, according to court papers filed Friday. Again, this is his MO. This is what we've seen from this sick pervert. This is what he does. He gets a young girl to come, someone like Sarah Kellen Vickers, or Ghislaine Maxwell, or Adriana Ross, or Leslie Groff. They'd find these girls, and they'd, facilitate the meeting, and they'd bring them into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit for him to abuse them. And that, my friends, is the same exact thing he was doing in Palm Beach. It's nice to see that in New York they're starting to come out. And we've talked about New York and how scummy high society is in New York. From the article, you heard it out of their own voice. People from high society, they didn't care what Jeffrey Epstein did. They did not care one bit. They were still hanging out with him. He was still invited to the parties. He's still Jeffrey Epstein, bro. And any real world environment outside of their upper crust silliness, no, Epstein would be a pariah. He'd have like the people would go around and they'd put a sign in his front yard saying, "Don't trick or treat here because this guy's a molester." That's what he deserved. But what he got, he was able to go and still hobnob with all of these elites in New York, the Stephanopoulos of the world, the Kevin Spaceys of the world, the Katie Courics of the world, and they validated him. They validated his behavior, knowingly or unknowingly, just by being around him and being in his orbit. And every one of these people, every last one of them who kept hanging out with him after his conviction, are doubly responsible for what he has done. When she and the friend arrived, Epstein was laying face down on a massage table where he allegedly told the girls to get naked. He then began touching Anastasia's private parts and abused her with a sex toy, the suit says. The same thing that happened to Maria from Florida. The same thing that happened to those poor girls in Florida. And you ask yourself, did Barry Krischer, his inability to do his job, cause other girls to be molested, to be raped, to be abused? I'll leave that up to the courts to figure out, but I have some opinions on that, folks. I think that a guy like Barry Krischer, who basically worked with the defense team when he was the prosecutor, he has a lot of blame on his shoulders, and I believe that he should be called in for as a witness at the very least, or for some questioning, or there has to be some sort of, maybe get him on record about what he was talking with Dershowitz about, demand those transcripts, whatever it is, however that works with lawyers, there has to be some sort of fail-safe, right? Some sort of oversight. Then again, who knows? Who knows? Our justice system is so screwed up. That's just a guess on my part. I really don't even know how any of that stuff would work. But there has to be a way to hold, prosecutors accountable for their inaction. Then, when she was 16, Epstein had sexual intercourse with her after paying her $400 instead of the normal $300 payment, the suit alleges. Epstein also encouraged Anastasia to bring over other high school friends of hers, adding that he would pay her $300 for each one she brought, the court papers claim. And again, this is the same thing he has done over and over and over again. And that's why I'm inclined to believe these girls that come out with these same stories, all these stories that match up. It's so sad to think that there's so many of these girls running around. Plaintiff did as she was instructed to do and brought Jeffrey Epstein other females as young as 14 years old. Plaintiff was paid $300 for each she brought, the lawsuit says. The woman now suffers from psychological trauma, mental anguish, and humiliation. and she has incurred medical and psychological expenses, the court papers say. She is suing Epstein's estate and the estate executors Darren Indyke and Richard Kahn for unspecified damages. And good, like I said, these girls they should all sue, right? They should all sue every last one of these sons of bitches that are involved. I would be suing everybody. Everybody that I could possibly sue if I was one of these girls, I would be suing them. Any chance to get things to discovery and to get this stuff out into the public view is a victory in my opinion, because with the interest in this case right now, the way it is, there is no way the public is going to let these people skate. There is no way you folks out there will not cause holy hell at this point. If people can get up off of their couches and they can, protest for the things that people protest for these days, well, I don't know how people can't be just as fighting mad over something like this. This tears at the very moral fabric of our society, folks. Over 24 women have filed sex abuse and rape claims against Epstein's estate. A lawyer for the executors and a lawyer for the estate did not immediately return a request for comment. In August, Epstein committed suicide by hanging, allegedly, inside a lower Manhattan lockup while he was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Nobody else had committed suicide in there in decades. Pretty coincidental, huh? That it's Jeffrey Epstein, the most high-profile inmate, that does that. A new report revealed that Epstein's longtime gal pal, Ghislaine Maxwell, is under investigation by the feds for allegedly procuring and grooming young girls for Epstein to sexually abuse. And not only that, from what I'm hearing, she's also under investigation for actually abusing these girls as well. And if that's the case, and she's definitely under investigation for both of those, ooh boy, she's in for a bad time, because with all the evidence we've seen here, and again, we're not lawyers, we're not career prosecutors or investigators here, but what we are is people with some damn common sense that can put two and two together and follow these breadcrumbs. Now, when you look at all this stuff as standalone situations, it's easy to say, it could be a coincidence. But when you have as much information as we have, and we've been on this journey for over 160 episodes now, you know that none of this is happening in a vacuum. All of this is tied in together, and all of it is needed for the story to be put into proper context. And again, the context of this story is so important, the way it's formed and the different layers. It's so important to understand the many moving parts. And that's what we're attempting to do here. I certainly don't know all the moving parts yet. Nobody does, I don't think. So what we're trying to do is put everything into focus on a daily basis. And again, putting out another profile of another victim who was coming forward with the same claims that she was abused in the same manner as these other girls. Well, what it does is it validates the other claims, folks, and it gives credence to these girls' claims and what they allege happened to them. And what you're not seeing is people from the other side, the ones who are being accused of this, they aren't presenting anything. No sort of defense, no sort of nothing. If it was me being accused of something like this, I certainly wouldn't be in hiding. I'd be yelling from the highest mountaintops about my innocence. I mean, is there anything more abhorrent, anything more disgusting than to be labeled as a child abuser? Someone who traffics in human beings? What is this, a Roman Empire? Trafficking human beings? Modern day slavery? Really, folks? This is okay? This is something that we're not going to get fired up about? We're not throwing over the table at this point? The chess table isn't being knocked over? Well, I know on this podcast it is. I know everybody listening out there right now. I know you folks, you're pissed. You are pissed. But the good news is this. There's movement, folks. Who would have ever thought that Prince Andrew would be in the position he's in? Who would have ever thought after the last few months we'd hear the news that Maxwell is under investigation for sure? Now, we've heard rumors. We have heard rumors, and I haven't been able to corroborate those rumors besides what we've seen in the news. My source was mum about all of it until recently, until it was, the story was starting to break, and whatever their reasoning behind that is, I'll respect it because, when it comes to information like this, people are hesitant to talk about it. There's a lot of dangerous people involved in this, a lot of people that will go to any length to keep this story quiet. And people have to be aware of that. And sources are very, very, very scared to talk about topics like this. One thing I have learned is a lot of sources want to stay off the record when it comes to things like this. And Also, if they don't trust you as a journalist, forget it. You're never going to get the interviews you're looking for. So, who knows? Who knows what we're going to find out as this story evolves? What we do know is this. Jeffrey Epstein was one of the most prolific and disgusting human traffickers in the history of this country. That's certainly a fact. What he did with these underage girls in New York and what he did with them in Florida and what he probably did with them in New Mexico, it's beyond imagining. It is absolutely... words escape me for how I want to explain it. The sinister nature of what he did is just unexplainable. It's absolutely, positively disgusting. And I am so glad that these people are now going to sleep tonight, and they are damn worried. Every last one of these predators has now become the prey. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to help support the podcast to bring even more content, well, you can click on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the morning update, and we will do it all over again, folks.